Today, he's taking us to learn about a former slave revered as the grandmother of L.A., Biddy Mason. Her memorial is tucked away on the ground level of a parking structure on Spring Street in downtown. You'd likely miss it just walking by.
This used to be her actual home right here, and they did a good job outlining the way the house looked. And this was one of the wealthiest homes in Los Angeles at the time. It was owned by a former slave, our good sister Biddy Mason.
Now, when you exit the parking structure and turn into the alley, there stands a timeline of her life. In the 1800s, Biddy went from slavery to becoming a wealthy real estate baron, owning property on what is now Spring Street.
The fact that she was enslaved, and also Biddy Mason was illiterate all of her life. All of the deeds that she signed, she would have to write an X because she just didn't know how to write, because at the time it was illegal for black people to learn how to read and write.
Although it's rather discreetly honored here, Tariq says her legacy remains relatively untold.
She was a major philanthropist. This woman was so important to the early stages of Los Angeles, but she's never talked about.
And these kinds of stories are hard to come by. Tariq has found much of black history is vague, untouched, or missing. Dr. Darnell Hunt agrees with Tariq. He says it takes a lot of digging to find the real hidden history of the black diaspora. As a sociologist and African-American studies professor at UCLA, he's been studying African-American history and quantifying it for over 25 years.
History is usually told by the people who won. So we live in a society where white supremacy is still operating, and most institutions are run and controlled by white people. So we don't often have control over our own narratives and our own stories.
And that's exactly what prompted Tariq to crowdfund over $1 million to purchase this property on Crenshaw Boulevard to build what will be called the Hidden History Museum. This museum will dive deep into the stories of African-American scholars, inventors, leaders, and artists that aren't traditionally recognized in American history.
So many people in our community, we're thirsty for the information. We know how important it is that we get information like this that will serve our needs and talk about our history and educate our children.
Because on the journey of self-discovery, you must know the history of your ancestors.
Oh, that's right. We stand on their shoulders. The group plans to officially acquire the land by November, with construction to begin in January. For more information, visit hiddenhistorymuseum.com. He said it so right. It's so important we tell our own history, that we control our own narrative. Otherwise, someone will tell you who you are.